We're making sure that we're not obligated to the inmate, that we're not dependent on the inmate. But that's why we're put in this position. We have to be better than them. Because if we don't respect ourselves, we can't expect the public to. How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi, host of Tear Talk. I was reading an article that comes out of Maine that has an inmate who made a complaint to staff that he felt unsafe with his cellmate. And the article says that the staff failed to act and the inmate was found dead. Very ambiguous. I don't know the specifics of the situation. I don't know why the officer chose not to act. I don't know the specifics of how the inmate made his complaint to the officer. But what I want to do here is I want to paint a picture of how inmates can manipulate housing moves for their own benefit, and how what we're reading now may not be as black and white or as cut and dry as people may think it is. There's a lot of things here that may not be mentioned. And again, I could be wrong or I could be right. So this is just an effort to bring about how an inmate can manipulate a housing move for their own benefit, and basically what we need to do to prevent that, but also fall in line with universal precaution. What about if the inmate is telling the truth? That's the key. So when we get back from our sponsors, we're going to discuss what happens if we feel an inmate is trying to manipulate a housing move. All right, guys, so if you haven't, the show's Tear Talk. It's for you brave men and women that work the front line of correction. So please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. That bell's going to notify you every time I post up a video. I stand by for our sponsors.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it. It's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Being a corrections officer takes its toll on even the strongest individuals. The constant need to perform at the highest level, putting your life at risk in a hostile environment, and the mental scarring of traumatic experiences. 31% of corrections officers show symptoms of PTSD, and 66% of people with PTSD also suffer with a substance abuse problem. The Transformations First Responders program is specially designed to help veterans and officers heal from the grips of addiction and PTSD in a comfortable, supportive, and serene setting. You are not alone. If you have questions about the services we offer, give us a call at 866-762-8454 to get more information on this affordable and life-changing program.
Thank you guys for listening to our sponsors. So again, you get this article from the media. Very ambiguous, leaves a lot out. Doesn't explain how specific the threat was that the inmate mentioned to the officer and why the officer chose not to act. Again, there's nothing that simple in corrections. There's always more to find out, but unfortunately the media's got a twist on it and they're already ahead, and it's sad because now we have to try to fight just to make up ground. Now again, I don't know the specifics of this incident, but I still feel that there was a lot that the media left out as to how the inmate made their complaint, the specifics about the complaint, and then why the officer chose not to act. So having said that, we all know for a fact, especially working in corrections, that inmates will try to manipulate housing moves. We know that. It gives them a sense of control. They want to control where they are housed. And that's for many reasons. I don't think I have to explain that. Not to this audience, because we've been there. We've done that. And I think it's also common sense for those on the outside why inmates would want to try to manipulate a move. Why they would try to be in a position to better their situation. Common sense. And there's many reasons behind that. Now, when an inmate tries to manipulate a move, the officer who's receiving the request, if they're allowed to make the move, because we don't even know if the officer is allowed to make that move, if the officer has that final determination. Maybe that determination for a move has to be moved up the chain of command. Maybe it can only come from administration. Maybe it can only come from operations. We don't know if the officer has that authority to make that move. That's another thing. That's another thing that was not answered in that article. Who has the authority to make that move? Can the officer make that move? Because in a lot of facilities, the officer doesn't have that discretion. Comment below if you have the discretion just to make moves. I'm just curious. Next thing is when an inmate chooses to manipulate a move, what they're going to try to employ is that they feel threatened by somebody or something. That's how they try to manipulate a move, because it forces us to act. Because again, we act in universal precaution, because God forbid he's telling the truth and we fail to act. Now we fail to protect that inmate. So not only will we be held liable, but also the facility will be held liable. So we have to do a lot to determine if that threat is credible. The inmate has to be specific with that threat. They have to give us the names. They have to give us the exact threat. They have to be specific. The reason why they have to be specific with that threat is because if we haven't identified that threat and we go to move that inmate, we could be moving them into an area where the threat still exists or where the threat is greater. So we go back to the inmate and say, okay, specifically tell me who the threat is from and what exactly the threat is. We need to know those specifics. And most of the time when an inmate is trying to manipulate a housing move, the threat is very general. I feel threatened from this gang. I feel threatened from a group of inmates. Well, give us their names. Give us the name of the specific gang member that you feel threatened by. If you can't give us that, we cannot help you. Because God forbid we move you into an area where the threat is still there. That's a problem. And most of the time when an inmate, again, is trying to manipulate that move, their threats are going to be very generalized. It's not going to be specific enough for us to warrant some form of action. Because again, there's liability there as well. If we move that inmate, we could be moving that inmate directly into a war zone. So again, there's a lot here that the media failed to mention. I don't find that this article is informational. I just find that it's someone that just said, this is what happened, and put it out there. I don't think it explains much of the process and really doesn't give me a better understanding of the circumstances, both from the inmate and from the officer's perspective. So, bad job on that. Bad article. As always, the show is Tier Talk. Guys, if you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. That bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. And give me your thoughts on that article. I put it in the description. I'm curious what you think. A lot was not answered. As always, guys, stay safe.